good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of PSIR Talks by the Association of Political Science Students of Nazarbayev University. My name is Zhanna, and today we have a truly inspiring guest who graduated from the PSIR department of our university in 2015, pursued her master's and PhD at Pennsylvania State University, and currently works as a postdoctoral fellow at the Center for Social Media and Politics at New York University, Zhanna Terechshenko. So, Zhanna, welcome.
Thank you.
First of all, thank you for accepting our invitation. It's an honor indeed to have you here, and we deeply appreciate it, and we are very happy to have such a supportive alumni community.
Thank you guys for inviting me. This is truly a pleasure of mine, and yeah, thank you for this opportunity to share my experience and talk to you guys.
Great. So let's begin by asking some general questions, and then if the audience has more specific questions, we'll have a short Q&A session in the end. So the first question, could you please introduce yourself and tell us briefly about your current field of work?
Okay, sure. Again, I'm Zhanna Terechshenko. I'm currently a postdoctoral fellow at the Center of Social Media and Politics at New York University, and I hold a dual degree from Ph.D. from Penn State University in political science and social data analytics. I know that social data analytics is a little kind of vague term, but it's basically big data, if you ever heard of it. I currently position myself as basically computational social science. So in my work, I use the knowledge from political science and social science in generally, and also applying quantitative methods, natural language processing, machine learning to answer the questions sort of that I'm interested in. So yeah, that's me.
Okay, great. And let's start from the very beginning, and namely from your undergraduate experience. So tell us, please, why did you choose political science as a field of study at NU?
Well, to be honest, I don't think it was a. So I always knew that I'm interested in international relations. I used to play chess professionally when I was in high school, and so to me, kind of international relations was this kind of a chess game that was sort of very much interested in. And I was wanted to study foreign policy. I was very much interested in the policy of China, of course, since it's very close to us, right? It's very relevant. Was very much interested in studying politics of Russia, Putin, all this stuff. And so studying political science seemed a very natural choice to me. I also, I think at the time I wanted to become a diplomat. That's why I also was taking lots of language courses in Nazarbayev University. Thank God we had I hope we still have French, Spanish, right? Organized Chinese student club. So yeah, taking political, kind of getting into political science was a very natural course for me, and all the courses were so exciting, and professors were truly inspirational. I think I don't think the professor teaches at Nazarbayev University anymore, Howard Schweber. I took my intro to political science with him, and Professor Terechshenko, who is still there, who is I don't know, this person affected so much my professional career life. And so this people inspired me, and I'm very glad that I made this choice.
Okay, thank you. And actually, speaking of Professor Terechshenko, he's actually a chair of our department nowadays.
Oh, this is amazing.
Yeah.
I love Professor Terechshenko.
Okay, and in 2014, we know that you became an outstanding student in PSIR. So could you please tell us how did you achieve that, and what advice would you give to students?
Of course, yes. So I think the big part of it was me being active both with my classes and studies and research and in social life. What I mean by that is that I, of course, attended all the classes, and I tried to get as much knowledge as I could, but also I worked as a research assistant at the time. So I was getting my experience in doing research, and that was also helping me with my classwork. So I try to actually create the project that I'll be interested in and like pursue in the future. And also in terms of social life, I try to be very kind of active student. I was with other students. We organized Model United Nations Club at the time and student council in the, I think the department was called Social Science and Humanities. Yeah, so I try to, first of all, be kind of just a good student, right? And get as much as I could from all these opportunities that were given to us. I was very active with, again, classes and research, but also with this like student social life. And I was trying to think about how can we enrich our experience? How can we make basically our lives better? So I think what I would advise to students and be active and not active, proactive, right? To sort of think in advance of what they want to get out of the program, what they want to get out of the classes, what they want to get out of this experience that undergrad in or even grad school in Nazarbayev University is, and to take steps toward it, to talk to people, to talk to other students, talk to professors. Basically, yeah, I think that at least was, I guess, my recipe. Though I'm still very flattered and that it's an honor for me to receive that award still. So yeah, I'm very grateful for that. But I guess in my case, it was just being proactive and yeah, just being a good student, I guess.
Okay, now let's move to your graduate and postgraduate life. So you got both your master's and PhD from Pennsylvania State University. And why did you choose those particular programs?
To choose a graduate program was actually a little bit of challenge for me because we're the first cohort, right? And we didn't know how much our sort of the knowledge that we got from the classes were like measured compared to those of undergrad programs abroad. And also, I just think, well, now sometimes I advise undergrad students to maybe like take a year after undergrad, like to think about or get some experience or work. But so in my case, our professors helped me a lot to choose. Professor Willerson, Professor Troshev, Professor Mida Chacha, Professor Kabayashi, Professor Shank. I talked to them. I kind of asked about their experience, sort of what they studied, why they chose their particular fields. And in terms of Penn State, I chose this specific program because I realized that I was very much interested in studying political science with quantitative methods. So I wanted to get more into statistics. I wanted to get more into data analysis, data processing, all this type of stuff. And Penn State political science program is very much known for their rigorous methodological training. So even the students who are not interested in sort of becoming, there are like some graduates of that program, they become like data scientists, research scientists, etc. So even the students who are not, who still want to kind of go to academia and study political science in the traditional sense, they all get this very good training in statistics, in quantitative methods. And so that was the primary reason why I chose Penn State. Also, they have this dual program. So at the time, I actually was also considering doing Asian studies. As I mentioned, I was still kind of very fascinated by the foreign policy of China, and I thought that I would be studying that. And that was actually in my research proposal when I was applying for the program. And I didn't get into that dual program degree, but I got into the one I was in social data analytics. So I received the training that would allow me to work basically as a data scientist in any company now, which is great. And so right now, I basically can combine these methods that I received during the program, which helps me immensely in my career right now.
Great. And what kind of research did you work on at Penn University?
So when I got into Penn State, again, so as you know, political science is a vast field, right? And so there are different fields within political science. They include comparative politics, American politics, political methodology specifically, um, international economy, political economy, etc. So I was into more still international relations. I wanted to study international conflicts, and actually, for the first 3 years at the program, I was working with Professor Glenn Palmer on militarized interstate dispute data set. So it's basically this kind of international conflicts where we were creating the data set of all conflicts that were happening around the world, even though they included just a show of force, just like a plane, over the territory of another country, or it's like full-blown war. So my dissertation was actually about international conflicts and international conflicts escalation in particular. And I was interested in how, so my main question was, what distinguishes conflicts that stay at the same level of hostility or de-escalate from the conflicts that lead to full-blown war? So what explains that? And that was the topic of my dissertation.
Okay. And it seems to me that you always knew that you were a person of research. So how did you realize that, and how did NU contribute to this?
I don't think I always knew that. As I mentioned, getting into a PoliSci program at Nazarbayev University, I was thinking that I would be a diplomat, and actually did internships in the delegation of the European Union. But so I think it was research assistantship that helped me a lot, and also kind of doing research for my classes. So I think sort of what I would advise students to do is to try, especially during undergrad, as many things as possible, right? We have all these opportunities in terms of like internships, different type of jobs. Maybe if you're allowed to TA a class, try to teach a class, try to maybe talk to professors about their research and the way how do they work on their research, how do they collect information, why did they choose to study topics they do. So I think in my case, I just try different things, and I realized that doing research is something that I'm good at and I'm very much interested in. And so that kind of helped me to navigate kind of further with my career. So yeah, I would want to say that changing your preferences and ideas about like your future and career is totally fine. It's totally okay. I think it's normal. I do meet right now some of the like students and like other fellow postdocs and colleagues who like knew what they wanted to study from like day one in undergrad, and they continue to study that, and that's great. But I think I meet more people who were they were thinking about different paths. And for example, in my PhD program, we had people who had a work experience. They work for the government, they work for the insurance companies, they did all sort of stuff before they realized, okay, I want to do PhD, I want to do research. So I would advise, I think that your time during the undergrad is actually the perfect time for you to try different things and to kind of see what you're more interested in and what you're good at, what you're passionate about. And I would recommend to do that. And that will help you to pursue the field that you're interested in the way that you are interested in. And that will help you a lot. That at least in my experience. I feel like I sound like a motivational speaker, which I'm trying to motivate, but I'm trying not to be that kind of person.
Okay, yeah, but you are truly motivation for many of us here. Now let's talk about the choosing the very specific research topic. So I think that many people struggle with that. And how did you come up with your topic of relation between social media and political science for your postdoctoral associate job? And can you please give us some tips on how to narrow down one's field of interest?
Okay. So again, I'm not sure how useful I'll be here because I want to kind of explain that my path is not the most traditional path of a political scientist, in a sense that by I think my fourth year of PhD program, I realized that I'm very much more interested in methodology rather than some substantive. I'm still very passionate about international conflicts and foreign policy. I feel like, as you could hear from my voice, but I wanted to study more kind of wanted to study more in terms of like methods and machine learning, natural language processing, data analysis, in sort of conjunction with like applying to social data. And for me, first of all, application to that postdoc was a chance. So the well, kind of my reasoning was twofold. First of all, social media data is a very rich data. Was very much interested in working with text, and that would have provided me with that. And also, the lab provides lots of resources for computational social scientists. We work a lot with data scientists. We work a lot with computer scientists. So it's a very interdisciplinary team, which I really very much enjoy. In terms of my substantive interest, so as I mentioned during my PhD program, I was very much interested in international conflicts. And so it seemed to me that a lot of international conflict, they move from the kind of conventional warfare to a cyberspace. And I was very much fascinated by that. And so one of the projects that I'm working on is the role of bots in 2016 US elections. You might have heard of the sort of topic about how US blamed like Russian bots for helping Trump, or just kind of critiquing Clinton a lot. And so what we're doing right now is we basically we build a classifier, first of all, to kind of identify accounts that are human accounts or like non-bot accounts and bot accounts. And now we sort of we're also we're able to kind of classify and predict stance of bots, like whether they spread positive or negative messages about certain candidates. And now, for example, we're studying how did they actually affect the elections? Did they actually help a lot Trump, or did they destabilize Clinton, right? What did they do when Sanders dropped off? So all this things that I was very passionate about, like studying international conflicts, it's basically just moved to cyberspace. And sort of that's, again, was a very natural transition to me. But I guess, in terms of the choosing research topic, first of all, this postdoc, it was my dream postdoc, to be honest. And I didn't even know I would get it, but it was a little bit more of a coincidence. I would just wanted to kind of, again, in my case, my research agenda was very much flexible. And as I said, I was more interested in political methodology. But again, you sort of, I think by my like story here, you can tell that I've been changing my preferences a lot. So like I was interested in foreign policy of China, then I moved to international conflicts, then I moved to political methodology. So again, sort of changing your research topics is fine. I want to mention again, in my research proposal, when I was applying for PhD program, I was I remember I was writing about foreign policy. I remember Professor Kobayashi helped me a lot. We did some like game theory. I thought I would be studying game theory, which I never ever taken a class. And after that, and so again, changing your research agenda, research topic is fine. For example, to narrow down my dissertation to international conflicts, that was also a process, again, working with professors, taking classes, talking to professors a lot. And so, for example, with escalation, I remember I talked to my advisor when I was trying to choose a topic for my dissertation. And I basically told him everything that I'm interested in, and kind of asked for his advice. And he's like, why don't you study escalation? No one knows what's happening there. I was like, this is amazing. Thank you. So that was, I guess I was lucky, but it was also like super, super helpful. And with social media, again, like now my interests are kind of a little bit diverging, even though I'm staying with the kind of interest in foreign policy, but I'm getting much more interested in misinformation now, and the conspiracy theories, especially with everything that's going on around COVID. And yeah, so I might be not the best, I guess long story short, might be not the best person to answer that question. But again, sort of trying different things and talking to people and trying to find something that you are interested in is very important, especially if a student, if you want to get into graduate program, if you want to get a PhD, you have to be passionate about what you're studying, because it's a very long way. It's sometimes it's kind of lonely way, because no one will know your topic better than you will, and you have to make sure that it's some sort. It is a kind of way of commitment, right? You have to make sure that this is something you are interested in. Also, another advice that one of my professors gave me is basically to find something that keep you awake at night, like find that question that you really want to answer, and that's a recipe to find your research agenda.
Okay, and you mentioned your dissertation and the whole process of doing your PhD. Could you please tell us a little bit more? How difficult was that? How the Penn State University in general, how is it different maybe from Nazarbayev University?
I'm sorry, I missed it. I got distracted by chat question. Can you say that again? Sorry.
So could you please, you were talking of your dissertation and the whole process of receiving PhD, and it might be pretty lonely and sometimes difficult. Could you please tell us about your experience about this whole process and how difficult was that at Penn State University?
Okay, yeah, sure. So first of all, I want to tell you, and I want to officially thank Nazarbayev University and our department for preparing me for this journey, because again, I had no idea what I'll be getting into, right? I didn't know whether sort of the knowledge I had was sufficient enough to take the same classes as kind of undergrad students here. In my program, there was no one from Kazakhstan or former Soviet Union countries. So guys, please, if you're interested in PhD, please apply. Yeah, so I had, it was weird, but I think after like first week, I realized that, okay, I know stuff. I'm prepared for this. I can do this. And I think this is very much thanks to our program at Nazarbayev University. Like our professors, I think, prepared all us very well. We had a very solid and good foundation. I just also want to say our math at Nazarbayev University, but even in our like high school, is like I feel like it's better than the one that they teach here for the high school students. So like even though I was never like a math major person, like the math skills I had, it was like I was ahead of like my group. I was like, okay, this is great. I'm prepared. So first of all, thank you to Nazarbayev University and to our political science department for preparing me to this journey. In terms of the PhD program itself, I think it varies department by department. In my case, I had to take classes for the first two and a half, almost 3 years of the program, which included sort of substantive courses, also methodology. As I said, we had a very rigorous methodological training. And the last couple of years, as you're supposed to write a dissertation, I finished my PhD program earlier, mainly because by that time I knew that I was not that much interested in academia, and it did not sort of make sense for me to stay longer. I would want to say that it was not an easy process for international student. And in my case in particular, I would also want to say for example, I had some problem with my mental health after my second year. And I guess I want to be open about it, because I think this is something that we do not really talk enough in academia. And I think it's just like people start to talk about it, but some people are afraid that it's like stigmatized, and they will trying to hide it or think that it's me, there's something wrong with me. So I would kind of want to tell you guys that this is fine, this happens, and you need to be open about it. Professors are actually very understanding. To say, for example, I had some problem with my mental health after my second year, and I guess I want to be open about it because I think this is something that we do not really talk enough in academia. And I think it just like people start talk about it, but some people are afraid that it's like stigmatized, and they trying to hide it or think that it's me, there's something wrong with me. So I would kind of want to tell you guys that this is fine, this happens, and you need to be open about it. Professors are actually very understanding, and it's better for like your communication if you kind of tell your advisor that this is like what's going on with you, and like you can always ask for help. All the universities, they always provide pre-counseling services, and so talking about mental health is important, especially in grad school and in undergrad school, undergrad program as well. So for me, it was a kind of very, I would say, bumpy road, but it was definitely worth taking. And so I think this is, I'm grateful and thankful that I was able to finally pass my qualifications exam, pass my dissertation and everything. It was, again, it was not easy. I used to be an A student in school, and I was like getting relatively good grades in undergrad. And so here, for example, I want to say I did not pass my first qualification exam, which was very super stressful and super frustrating to me. There were multiple reasons for it. I was just not prepared, basically. And I type in English. At the time, I was typing like very slowly, so I didn't wrote as much as I needed to. And I used also, my style of writing is very kind of concise and precise, and like I didn't elaborate on the topics and everything. But so I passed it from like second time. So failures happens with everybody. So it was a very like my PhD program was a very bumpy road for me, but I'm very thankful to all the people who supported me. Also, as I mentioned, PhD program can be very lonely. So I would, for, I don't know, all the people, all the students who are very much kind of introverts and do not like open up to people, I would recommend to kind of talk, like find friends, talk more, find hobbies. This is like, actually, this is very important. If you ever go to PhD program, please find a hobby that will be distracting you, whether this is running, jogging, doing yoga, I don't know, playing guitar, anything. So that's super helpful. But also, yes, talking to other people, going to, I know, book clubs, and finding someone else who maybe is not going through the same experiences you are, but can relate. And there are definitely a lot of people like this in colleges and universities. And yes, so that's I guess my story, very short version.
Thank you very much, for sharing your story, especially this part about mental health, because I believe that it's very important, especially as you mentioned, you were an A student at school, and then you get into this competitive environment, and you somehow have to deal with everything that's happening around you. And you were talking about some failures that you could face on your road. So could you please give some advice to students who maybe fail some exams or something, and especially at our university, people tend to overthink it. Do some, maybe, have some bad thoughts about that. Could you please tell us, how do you cope with that? How do you overcome that?
Oh, yes, of course. So I think that first of all is sort of, to me, kind of first step is admit to yourself that, okay, this happened, and maybe like give yourself some time, like depending what's your time schedule, like at least a day or two, so to grieve, to like feel sorry for yourself, and I don't know, just kind of to live with this. But after that, you cannot stay in the state of mind for long. You have to be, again, as I mentioned, kind of sort of proactive. You have to start analyzing what went wrong. Maybe talk to a professor and try and kind of as soon as possible and trying to figure out how you were not prepared last time and how can you prepare next time for this. When can you take the next exam, or what can you do in the future to avoid this mistake, right? Sort of, I think important thing to know is it happens with everybody. We all go through some sort of failures, and yes, I feel like we tend to get into environments where people are more likely to share their victories and all the exams you I don't know, pass like with A's and everything, but or like further down in academia, people share stories about their publications, about their presentations, about how great they are, like how many grants did they receive, that they're like someone is writing a book, someone is juggling a family and like a super successful career. But everyone gets rejections. When you start publishing your papers, if you're interested in going down that road, you will definitely have a rejection, and some of them are very harsh ones. And so everyone goes through some stuff. Everyone fails at least once in their lives, and those exams. I mean, right now, kind of again, I think this is a very good training, right? Preparing for the future life, where you maybe those rejections or the failures could be slightly bigger or slightly more impactful. So to me, it seems, first of all, kind of not deny that this is happening, admit to yourself, live with this, but kind of, as I said, do not wallow in that, do not stay in that for too long. Just figure out what you did wrong, what can you do better next time, and just go with that. So that will be my advice. Otherwise, a little bump in the road will basically, will drive you away. Don't quit. Though another thing, sometimes quitting is fine, but this has to be, I guess, a longer process. You have to know what's when it's not a passion of yours anymore, when it's something that's not interested to you. Like, don't quit just because you think you cannot do this. You can do whatever you want to do, as long as you have interest, as long as you have passion about it. So it's a very complicated topic, of course, and I cannot really cover all of this. But so that what helped me, I guess, is taking control, taking responsibility for your actions, taking responsibility for, okay, you were not preparing for this exam because you were like partying hard the night before, and of course this will happen to you. Or you maybe thought that this will be easy, and you didn't think that you need to study for that, or you didn't put enough time, enough energy for this. So taking responsibility for your actions, that's super important. And not in this case, but I feel like in everything in your life. So taking responsibility, being proactive, and again, surround yourself with people who support you and help you. That helped me personally a lot. If not my colleagues, if not my friends during PhD program, I don't know where I would have been, honestly. I would be back in Kazakhstan already. Because there were multiple times when I was about to pack my bags, and I was looking at the tickets back home. I was like, I cannot do this anymore. So it happens. It's fine, but you'll get through this.
Thank you very much, Zhanna, for sharing again your story, and we really appreciate it. Now, let's talk about your publications. Okay. So you have quite a number of different works, and we know that the process of academic article publication is a tedious one, and you've already mentioned that you could get rejected several times. So can you share your experience and feelings about this whole process, and what do you like or dislike about it the most?
Okay, yeah, sure. So the process is, of course, far from ideal. First of all, because, in my case, right now is because it's taking way too long for a political science journal to process like your publication, and sometimes the topic is very kind of timely, and like you need to publish it like something now, otherwise no one will even remember about it a year after. Yeah, I mean, so I did get rejection letter. I didn't get as many rejection letters as some people do, but the funny thing, actually, I learned that there is a professor who publishes 15 articles a year, which is a lot. And every year she has a goal on her whiteboard about how many works she wants to publish and how many rejections she wants to get. So she has a goal for rejections too. So yeah, you'll have a rejections letter. Some of them will be harsh. There's a very common jokes in academia about reviewer number 2. It's usually the meanest one. I think the important thing is not to take that personally. This is not about you. This is sort of about your work. Sometimes not really. Sometimes the reviewer just is in a bad mood. But yes, basically, I think publication process, what I like about it is that it is a very good opportunity to get feedback on your work, and feedback from people who are not your friends and colleagues, who will not try to like, oh no, this is great, this is like, you're doing amazing work, but people who actually do not know you, and who can very objectively assess sort of the impact and contribution of your work, but also they can provide suggestions about how you can make your paper, your project better. And this is the most useful thing, to take that feedback, constructive criticism, and actually implement it, not just, it's like, oh no, this is bullshit, like I know better than this person. No, like try to listen. Also, one kind of advice that we received during our PhD like program during the professionalization classes is that never try to guess who your reviewer are. It's most, you probably will never get, like, you will be sure that this is the person, but it probably won't be that person. I think it's especially relevant when you get into the field that's very narrow, right? And you kind of like you'll know all the people who studied this subject, and so you think you can guess who is your reviewer, or who will be who will be the person reading this paper. So yeah, I think what I like about the process is the feedback. What I dislike the process is the time that it takes. And yeah, you can say that also it's not, it's used to be double blinded, right? When you do not know your reviewers and the reviewers do not know you. I mean, it varies journal by journal, but in lots of cases, it's not really blind anymore, because you present your work, you publish on your websites. It's very easy to find who is the author of the paper. And there are certain biases there, right? The senior faculty, senior professors, the probably will be more likely, it's a little bit easier for them to publish work than for young scholars. This is not always, but it's kind of, there is this idea, and something that's people don't speak usually about, but I guess I do. Yes, so I think the time process, the frustrations that related to that. One advice that I can give to you guys is that if you're again interested in academic career, the earlier you start publishing, the better. And I feel like a lot of people, probably in Azerbaijan University, I know based on my experience, are like perfectionists, right? So don't let, as again, one of my professors told me, don't let the perfect be enemy of good. And so don't try to make your paper will never be ideal, your project will never be in the ideal shape and state. But like, as soon as you get something good enough and you get some feedback from professors or like the people you're working with, your co-authors, please send it for publication. Don't let it pile in your drawer. And yes, so publishing it can be a very interesting and rewarding experience. And yeah, I would suggest to get into this as early as possible. Because yeah, you'll receive, I think as with everything, you'll get more experience and more knowledge about the process when you do this and not by just like hearing others, Yes.
Yeah, but anyway, your advice is very helpful, I believe. And you mentioned that the timing of the whole process is the thing that you dislike the most. And have you ever encountered a situation where your work could become irrelevant because of the timing?
Yes. So actually, one of my papers became kind of irrelevant. Once I started my postdoc at CISMAP, one of the projects that I got involved in, which was already, it kind of started before me. I only continued with my new co-authors, my new colleagues. It was on transfer learning language models for political science text classification. So what we did there is we basically wanted to see how this recent developments in natural language processing in terms of creating language models could help for better classification of political science texts. And at the time when I started it, I basically just learned about these language models, and it was very shiny and bright and new and kind of exciting. And so we did several experiments on politicals, like using those models for political science text. And we found that they did, in fact, help us to improve the kind of classification of our models. We got higher accuracy. We were able to, for one example I would give you is we wanted to classify tweets that mention Hillary Clinton during 2016 US elections, and we wanted to be able to classify tweets on positive, negative, and neutral about the candidate, right? And so we, with this new natural language processing models, we basically were able to improve our accuracy by like 20%, which is amazing, great. Especially worked well with the small data, like when you have small labeled data, which is very common situation like among political scientists when you don't have that many resources to label, I don't know, 10,000 of tweets, or if you can like label yourself like 1,000 tweet and see if you can classify the rest. I'll be happy to talk. This is like the topic I'm sort of excited about. That's why I feel like talk too much. But I'll be happy to answer any questions or explain how these models work better if you guys interested in. But yes, so when we started this, those models were very new. They just kind of were developed. The code was kind of new too and everything. And so we sent it for publication. I mean, we had a kind of long period within the lab because we have couple of checkpoints in our lab too. When postdoc finished the paper, we have to send it to our PIs, principal investigators in the lab, who are like professors who are like working with to kind of read the paper and check and give us their feedback. And sort of that process, kind of when you have basically like 7 co-authors, that takes a while. And then after we finished with that, we were sure that we're getting this, kind of we presented several conferences, everything, and we sent it for publication. We got rejection. So we sent it for publication. I think it was right in the beginning of COVID or something like that. And so we received a response only after almost like 4 months, which was a rejection, but it was kind of rejection. They wanted us to submit this piece not as a research paper, but as a letter, which is a very short version. We did not want to do that because we put lots of work. We had a very good overview of the methods and everything there. So we decided to send it to another journal, which took another 4 months. And so basically, we sent it for publication, right? It was reviewed by people a year after these models came out, and by this time, more people were using them. By this time we also had a tutorial on our Medium page. We put it like out on GitHub. We wrote a wrapper for the package. We sort of, as I said, we presented I think in 3 or 4 conferences. So we kind of helped other people to use these models more, and it became kind of more widespread. And so by the time that it got to this like last stage of review, like reviewers like, oh, this is like not in use anymore. I was like, yes, we know, because this took like a year. So we decided not to publish it after that. We just put it on NSSRN kind of as an archive. It's been like cited several times, and it's been downloaded like 100 times. So we know that that was useful for people, and people use this as a resource and kind of learn about these models. So personally, I feel proud and happy that I kind of helped and contributed to the spread of this knowledge, but we were not able to publish that paper, and that's a pity, because I believe it was a good paper. But yeah, that happens.
Yeah, that's a pity indeed, because the topic sounds very interesting and the whole process that you described.
Mm-hmm.
But, okay, so let's talk about more about your publication. So you've already mentioned co-authoring with other people, and most of your collaborative publications are with foreign scholars. But what about Kazakhstani researchers? And did you consider working with the local political scientists? Why or why not?
So I think the reason why my publications are with foreign scholars is mostly because these are kind of the people that I either met during my grad school, or either like my professors or other students, or the people like I'm working with right now in the lab. So for example, one of my co-authors, he's actually from Russia, so closer to us. But yeah, so I think this is sort of a coincidence. I wish I worked more with Kazakhstani scholars. And I think part of it is the topics that I'm studying, because in the lab that I'm working in right now, kind of most of the students and professors are interested in American politics. So that's why lots of the topics or like projects that I started, they are with application to American politics. For example, affective polarization, right? How polarized the Democrats and liberals. Or I have a piece with my co-authors in Washington Post about the primary political debates, primary elections in US. So I think because my previous work is a lot about like either international politics or US in particular. That's why I think I mostly work with US scholars, but I would be very much happy to work with Kazakhstani scholars. And especially now I'm kind of trying to think how I can help with the kind of combat misinformation in Kazakhstan in particular. And yeah, I think, but this is sort of just a thought process. But yeah, I think so the co-authorship process, it's very much based on people who you work with, right? And just because I haven't had a chance to work with colleagues from Kazakhstan, that's why I don't have co-authored work, which I think partly is my fault. Again, this is something where I could be more proactive at and kind of reaching out to people. But yeah, I think it's yes, mostly kind of a function of your surroundings, of the people you work with.
But hopefully you'll publish at least one work with local researchers in the near future.
Yeah, I'll be happy to. Yeah, that would be amazing.
And let's speak more about political science in Kazakhstan. So how do you think the attitude towards PoliSci research is changing here, and what can be done about it?
I think it seems to me that, and again, so I feel like it's a little bit hard for me to talk about this because I haven't been home in 2 years, mostly because of COVID. And I would be actually very happy, I don't know, maybe to talk to you guys later a bit more about your experience, kind of learning from you. But to me, it seems that lots of people who study political science in Kazakhstan, they might not realize how many opportunities they have, right, with this degree, that it is not necessarily that you have to go straight to the government, or it's not necessarily that you have to go to academia, but knowledge, background in political science can help you with variety of field. And so, for example, as I mentioned, I'm not planning to academia, at least for now, at least at this point of time. And but I'm pretty much sure that my background can help me in a variety of like companies and like industry as well. And actually, companies, a lot of companies, they do look for people with domain expertise, with political science, social science expertise, because I think more and more people are realizing that just putting a bunch of data scientists and computer scientists to work on the task that has a social impact, it's not really enough. And like we have to work in more multidisciplinary, like we have to use more multidisciplinary approach where social scientists, sociologists, political scientists, they work with computer scientists and data scientists, psychologists. You know, I feel like this is sort of the way when you can create something truly important and kind of come up with a good solution for many societal problems. And so, yes, I think kind of spreading the knowledge or the information or that mindset that of like co-authorship or collaboration between different people with from different fields and different backgrounds. I feel like this is what we need more of, at least to my experience. But again, I feel like I have a very limited one, and I'll be happy to learn more from you guys, to be honest.
Okay, yeah, but before we proceed to the next question, I think you're having some issues with the video or something, because I can't really see you. Your screen is black.
Okay, give me a second.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I did not know what happened. I think Zoom just got tired of my long speeches. Uh-huh.
Okay, it's okay. And so to build a career like yours, what should students do during their university years?
First of all, I mean, what does it mean to build a career like mine, right? This is a good question. But in general, I think what I recommend students to do during their undergrad years, or maybe even grad school, basically just try. So I'm interested in research, right? So if you're interested in research as well and you think this is what you want to do, I would recommend to get into it as early as possible. I was very lucky that one of my professors in PhD program, he made a point out of helping me with like my first publication, because he believed that this is kind of to get that experience is very important for the future. And I totally agree. So if you have a research idea right now, and I would kind of recommend talking to a professor, right? And like try to, if you're interested in research, try to send something for publication as soon as possible. Have some, I don't know, drafts of working papers, talk to professors, work with them, and yeah, don't be, I know, don't feel like you have to, you know, write that paper by yourself and like hide from everybody. Like if you can co-author with other students, this is amazing. This actually will help to speed up the process for you, and also bring other person's expertise, right? Their experience. So that would be actually great and amazing. So I think I would recommend to start publishing as soon as possible, at least attempt. It might not be successful, but at least you get that experience, you have it already, and that's useful, that's valuable on its own. But also, yes, I would recommend to be active in your social life, participate in student clubs, student organizations. This is also very valuable skills that you'll learn. I mean, probably everyone at this point heard of like soft skills, the importance of those in any kind of job. Even if you go to academia, which is like full of very not so sociable people, let's put it that way, But so kind of the skills of organizing, the skills of, I know, managing, they will help you with working with other students when you sometimes, for example, some works you hire undergrad students to help you to label your data and kind of, and so I think being active in social life, it's actually super, super helpful because it gives you the skills that will be valuable to you no matter where you go, whether this is academia, whether this is a private industry or government job. And yes, if you're interested in research, please do. If you think that you might be interested in teaching, please ask for the opportunities to be like TA or maybe teach part of the class or seminar. I'm sure that professors, they're usually very swamped, so they would welcome the opportunity to, hand over some of that stuff to you guys, and like you get the experience. Teaching experience is actually very, very valuable in American universities. Lots of students try to get that experience as much as possible. So if you think this is something that you might be interested in, please try it now if you can.
Okay, thank you for your advice. And the last question is about your further work. So could you briefly tell us about your plans for the near future? Are you going to come back to Kazakhstan?
So right now, again, as I'm not that, so I'm not that much interested in going to academia, but I am very much interested in continuing doing research. So I'll sort of starting very slowly my job search soon, and hoping to get a position of like research scientist where I can actually apply my skills both as a methodologist and as a political scientist, social scientist. This is like very actually narrow type of job, so I don't know. We'll see how that goes. I do. I would like to kind of give back to like Kazakhstan Nazarbayev University, right? But at this point, I would want to get a little bit more experience. But I would be very much like happy to collaborate, as like you mentioned before, because like I haven't had to work with Kazakhstani scholars, right? But like I would be very much like happy to get involved in the research, also with scholars in Kazakhstan as well. But yes, this is at this point, I would want to get a little bit more experience, which I think I'll have more here, especially given the fact that I'm very much now my new passion is social media data and like social media in general. And I feel like I'll get, yeah, I guess my answer is I don't really know. And this is fine. But yes, this is my plans are very, I mean, especially with COVID and everything going on, I feel like I cannot really even tell my friends whether I'm going to be here like next month or not, because I'm glad, I guess, that I can return to Kazakhstan anytime. And yes, so this is very much an open question for me.
Okay, we appreciate your honesty. And this is the end of the main part of today's event. So again, Zhanna, thank you very much for your answers. Now let's have some fun and proceed to the Blitz questions. So we've prepared 5 Blitz questions for you. And are you ready?
Yes, I am.
So your top 3 courses at NU.
Oh my God. Intro to political science and political theory and East Asian studies.
Okay. Political science or public policy?
Political science.
Okay. What is your life motto?
I don't have one.
Okay, good. And 3 books every political scientist should read.
Oh, this is a good question. I wish I prepared for that one. Oh my God.
Maybe you can name something on the top of your head.
I mean, the first one is the Daniel Kahneman book on, I have it. Wait. Thinking Fast and Slow. I mean, it's not really about political science, but I feel like it's very, very useful. And I'll send you in the email. Yeah, this is a question I need to prepare for.
Okay, sure, no problem. And then the last question, if not PSIR, what field of studies would you choose?
Psychology. Psychology or neurolinguistics, neuroscience, something like that.
And not something related to math, because you said that you were good in playing chess.
Yes, I do love math, but I don't know. It varies. I think math is a separate. It's a separate passion of mine. It's a love of mine. I do not want it to be my career. I just want to keep it a special place for it.
Okay, like a hobby. Okay, great. So now we can proceed to the Q&A session. And I think we already have some questions in the chat. So one of them, let me go back. So Alsher asked, when should I start to prepare for admission to master's if I want to pursue it in one of the Ivy League universities? And he's a sophomore student at the moment.
So this is where I'm confused. Sophomore is fourth year or third year?
Is second year.
Second year. So I think, mission to master. Well, so I feel like it depends what masters you want to get, right? Because so when I was applying not for master's program, I was applying to PhD program, and getting masters was basically kind of a side additional thing, kind of as part of the program. And so while some students were they did left after receiving their masters, most of the people who apply for this program they stay in for PhD. But I think so if you are second year, I mean you can start preparing now. I feel like you have so many resources right now, the smartest prep and I think it's very it depends on where you want to get your master's, and I would just recommend to do research on kind of what Ivy League schools you're interested in, what sort of the qualification requirements for getting into master's program, right? And creating a plan of like what you need to do, and what if you can start working on something now, great, because all this experience was student clubs, for example, or again writing papers and everything, this all takes time, and it will all good look on your resume, so it will all look good on your CV and proposal. So the sooner, like as soon as you know where you want to go, and what you need to do for that, the better. And kind of you can already start working toward it now, because I feel like every experience that we have as a students from like our first day at university can help and contribute to that like resume, that your future career path. So yeah, I feel like I'll be happy to talk more like in person and like discuss this particular situation, or like if there is anything I can help with, but this is as much as I can answer now. Basically start as soon as possible. If you like create a plan and start as soon as possible.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I guess just deciding what do you want to do in the first place is very important, and then the process becomes a bit easier.
Yeah, if you're like just thinking, okay, I think I want to do master's, and I think I want to do Ivy League university, this is kind of pretty vague, right? Like you need to do some research and identify what kind of students this universities look for. And again, I'm assuming it's usually the standard package of the student being very active in the social life, participating in the giving back to the community. This is a huge thing, which I think is big in US and maybe not as big in Kazakhstan, or maybe it's getting bigger. Sort of like what can you do to help other students? What it can do to help, I don't know, like students in high school, or schools, right, to get into Nazarbayev University, or like how can you contribute to your community? And I think this is kind of good grades, right? And like, but this is also like very much important, and it's never too early to start that.
Mhm. Yeah, you're right. Thank you. Now, the next question. So, how do you think, it's not in the chat, but it's in my private messages, so I'll just read it out to you.
Okay.
How do you think the COVID pandemic has affected the admission process? So it basically it's about admissions to graduate programs.
Hmm. I mean,
And,
mhm. Okay,
uh,
so again, because I have not experienced myself, I'm not so sure, but I would just recommend to be prepared for longer, just a longer process. With COVID in general, everything takes a little bit more time at all kind of steps of the bureaucratic levels, right? Because there are so many people who can work only from home. There are so many people who like that lost their jobs and everything. And so everything, it just like with COVID, everything's taking longer. But I think we're getting sort of back on track. So for example, NYU, some of the classes, I think hybrid, but it mostly offline now. So I think it's everything kind of getting back to its previous speed. And so if you'll be applying for a grad program, I know this year, next year, I think it's still a little bit better than it was last year. So just be prepared for longer times.
and on the second part of this question, as summer schools and exchange programs are being canceled because of the pandemic, the questions arises whether as they important for the admission department.
I think in general they are, but I think everyone sort of understands the situation right now. And if it's I think it might be maybe it's not might be not important this year, but like as soon as everything gets back to life, I would still recommend to do those if you can. So those are important. They important mostly for you, not even for the program, because this is experience you're getting. This is again another kind of checkpoint where you can see whether this is something that you want to do for the next several years of your life at least. And yes, so this is very understandable that you'll have to maybe like apply to programs without having this experience, but I don't think anyone will hold it against you at this point. But it doesn't mean that it's not important.
Okay, thank you. Then, so the next question, Iolam asks, could you please tell more about your internship at EU delegation and was it helpful?
Yes, of course. So that was for me a very valuable experience because, as I mentioned, I thought I wanted to be a diplomat and work in this kind of organizations, and that gave me an idea of what this job will look like. I mean, of course, as interns, we our tasks were not particular super high importance, and for a lot of time we would put together the like news memos that we'll send to everybody in the department, which was actually very stressful. And yeah, so I mean, it was a good experience in terms of the meeting delegates from other countries and talking to ambassadors, talking to like people in our government, going to the ministry and everything, attending the high talks, the meetings, learning how to take notes, learning basically, I don't know, for me, even like how to talk to these people and how to sort of behave yourself, like translation skills, everything. So I think it was, to me, it was helpful. The colleague of mine who she did her internship much longer at the EU, and the so that was particularly helpful for her career because she works in this sort of consulting now, and she still has all this like network of people she met there. And she was part of her job, for example, was to compile the kind of write the memo of like situation in Syria, or like what's going on like right now in Afghanistan, sort of things like that. And to be able to analyze it, kind of provide your analysis of situation. And this is something that it's not really taught in the classes at Nazarbayev University. So it's like, it's a little bit like, not a little bit, it's a different type of expertise that you receive as a part of that than if you just take PSIR classes, right? So it was helpful, I think, for example, for both of us, but in very different way. For me, was kind of realization that okay, I'm more interested in research than doing, at least at that point of my life, than working for embassy, or in this case EU delegation. For her, it was kind of help her to build the expertise that she's using in her work right now. So yes, I think it's definitely was a useful experience, and was I just wanted to kind of say it was more than like bringing coffee or just like please sign the piece of paper, which also sometimes was kind of a little bit part of it, but it was a small part of it. I think it actually gave us a very good idea of what this kind of jobs look like and help us to learn. I think they did a really good job kind of teaching us and spending a little bit of time with us if they saw that the intern was interested in. So yes, I would say it was helpful.
Okay, thank you. The next question is again from Alisher, and he wonders what was your cumulative GPA at NU?
It wasn't high. It was 3.87, something like that, or 3.88, something like that.
Okay, good. And Harke asks, so do you know what other job opportunities are for PSIR alumni besides working in the government and going to academia or research? So she's an undeclared first-year student, and it's difficult for her to imagine a future job and occupation in this specialty.
It's a good question. So as I mentioned, one of the kind of you can always go to with undergrad in political science, you can always like choose whether you want to go to public policy or you want to, like working for the consulting firms is a pretty, I think, common kind of option. Also, again, lots of companies right now, they start big companies like Facebook, Google, they start hiring people with social science, political science kind of background to kind of contribute to help with their research and their kind of product. So I think, but the first thing, and that's I think kind of very sort of common, is like consulting. Is so you basically with political science degree, yes, you can go to the government, you can go to academia, but you also can go to private. It depends on what you want to do.
Okay, thank you. So the next question is from Dino Hamid. He asks how to approach a professor about research. Just write him an email with a draft of a research.
Oh, okay. This is a good question too. I think in my in my case, it was maybe a little easier because there are fewer students, right? So we could talk to a professor. But still, I feel like every professor has an office hour, so I would recommend kind of just maybe talking to him and kind of explain, or her, why do I do that, and explaining them what sort of you're interested in and like that you were like interested in your in research. I think the most natural way of actually doing research is either during your as a part of your classwork. I'm assuming that still for some of the classes that you have to write this final paper, and this final paper is actually a very good kind of a springboard for research paper, and so that will be a very kind of natural way for you to continue work with this professor, right? And this is how lots of research papers in PhD programs, for example, started. They kind of they start in the class as a part of the discussion, as a part of the term paper, final paper, midterm paper, etc. So this will be actually the most natural way for the research. If you work as a research assistant, then you have to like approach professor. If you have a sort of this other idea that were not born out of the class, but I still think it's probably better to identify a professor who is most close related to that, and if you can, well, I get now I understand because of the if every all classes in Zoom. Yes, you can do that. You can email them, but please sort of understand that professors are super overwhelmed, and I feel like in the online classes more than usual. I feel like my screen freezes a little bit, but um, in the always in the worst. But that's all right. And yes, so yes, you can email professor, but be very polite, respectful, and just understand that they have a lot of um, responsibilities, and that might take them time. So if you, for example, if you need to submit something to a journal, to a conference, and you need professor or application for a grad school, please make sure that professor has enough time to read through your application. Like, don't give them like 24 hours or expect them to read your paper like, the next day. This is it will ruin your relationship with the professor. It will not help you. Even if they read it, they will like be rushing through this and they'll miss a lot of things. So if you send something to your professor, whether this is research proposal, anything, just make sure that you leave them enough time. I would say a couple of weeks, ideally, to read through it, and don't expect them to get back to you sort of as soon as possible. Just yes, yeah, that will be my advice.
Okay, thank you. And the next question is from Nazirke. So could you tell us career paths that PhD holders could pursue out of universities and academia? Meaning, what do you think about postdocs, research fellowships, or think tanks?
Um, okay, yeah, sure. So I want to, I guess I can use example of my department, political science department at Penn State. We have some students who went to go to academia. Again, among those who went to academia, there are people who went to like teaching college, small colleges where they mostly teach, and there are people who are mostly interested in continuing doing research, and they also teach classes. I have a colleague who went to a think tank called RAND, and now he actually works in Pentagon. So he might be the most influential person I know at this point. And like, I know the guy. This is actually scary. And so, yes, I have an example of a person who went to work for, actually a couple of people from my program went to work for a think tank, and they do analysis of the kind of foreign policy situation across the world. There are several people who went to into data science. And again, for example, one colleague of mine, as part of his job, he had to evaluate the risk of civil conflicts in different countries, and that information kind of he was building predictive models to help businesses to decide whether they want to put their business in this particular country or not. Like in this year, what's the probability that there will be like a civil war? I know it, Vietnam like next year. Like, do I want to put my factory there? Something like that. So a lot of data scientists, several people went to work for Facebook. There are people who I know have a colleague who works for Google, another one who works for Google in YouTube in particular. So yes, there are like there are people who dropped after second year, received their master's degree, and they work for like in other universities, just kind of in the like program managing type of jobs. And postdocs as well, always there. So it's kind of all depends. I think postdocs are mostly in research fellowship for people who are interested in doing research and teaching. Think tanks is if you're interested in doing research but you do not want to go to academia. They always kind of again open and want good political science students. So yeah, this is this all valuable career path, and I know at least the one person who chose to go that route. So yeah.
Okay, thank you for your answer. So we have two last questions. One is from Aida. She asks, what are the best courses you would suggest to take at NU that are related to quantitative political methodology or that might have been helpful in pursuing data analytics related paths in PoliSci when applying for masters?
So this is a good question. Unfortunately, I not that familiar with took a look at the website, and I know that it changed a lot since the like classes and professors. Sort of the program changed a lot since I was at Nazarbayev University. What helped me was we had intro to quantitative methods with Professor Yanakan, I think, where we basically was like basic intro to statistics or like something like that. So yes, we did that class was helpful. I think so. In my case, most of the stuff I needed, I learned basically either by myself in between like undergrad and starting my PhD. This like summer before PhD, I learned basically Python and R by myself, which you don't really have to do now. So yeah, I would if you're very if you know that you want to pursue more of a data science route, taking math classes that are available to you, like calculus 1 and linear algebra. Linear algebra will be super helpful. So yes, math classes. I'm not sure about data analytics path. So this is actually news for me that our department provide those. That this is amazing. But yeah, to me, so I would say in my when I was at NU, what helped me was intro to quantitative methods, and I also actually took a couple of classes of economics, which is I would also I guess recommend if you think that political economy, that's something that you might be interested in, right? There are scholars who study foreign investments and how like countries and like China use foreign investments like as a tool and stuff like that. And so the intro to economics is helpful, though you have a very good one in the freshman year. But yeah, I would definitely math classes. They're always helpful. And as I said, we have very good math teachers. I'm sorry. I hope I helped with my answers. Yeah, was able to answer it as part of the question.
Okay, and the last question is from Camila. So thank you, Zhanna, for devoting your time, sharing your experience, and motivating us. She has a question about keeping up with all work and social life. So how do you manage everything? And could you tell us about your own planning tips?
Okay, so this is a great question. So the answer to this, you cannot find time to do everything you want. You basically have to put the priorities, like, and it kind of like, if you try to be the best, I don't know, in all of your classes, to be involved in like 10 social clubs, have like life of your own, and like try to spend time with your family, like you will burn out. This is not not possible. I mean, maybe for some humans, but I would still kind of recommend the first thing you need to do is basically to have your priorities, right? To figure out which classes will be the most important to you for your career, for like you're most interested in, and spend a little bit kind of more time there, right? Like talk there to professors, maybe like this is like where you do like research and everything, and kind of prioritize those classes. Do not try to get involved in all social clubs that are at Nazarbayev universities. I think when in my cohort, there was a person who was, I think, in all of the social clubs, and kind of people were just like making fun. I mean, it's find one or two where you're like really passionate about the cause and you think you can contribute to. Yes, I think that the main advice I can give about planning is to have your set of priorities, and to know that having a time off and like relaxing, everything is actually important. This is something that I've been struggling with myself for a long time. I think basically till this year, I've been like telling this, no, like I'm a machine, I'm a robot, I can do everything I set my mind to, like, no, like relaxing is for weak, wherever. Like I remember, I think when I was in undergrad, I had the kind of the poster thing that like I'll sleep in another life, something like that. So no, this all bullshit. Sleep and good food is important. This is like your physical energy, and without it, you cannot really move move along. You cannot have like whatever path you choose, whatever planning you have has to be sustainable. And without this basic stuff as sleeping enough times, eating good quality food, and like drinking enough water, you cannot really do much. So kind of start with basics. Set your priorities, where like what you want to do, what you want to accomplish, and try not kind of accept that you cannot be the best at everything, but you have to be sort of the like, not have to be, but you probably will be more satisfied if you'll be the best and thing that you care about. And if you think you care about everything, think twice. So yes, that will be that's I guess how I try to manage my life. Just priorities, priorities, priorities. Yeah, you're welcome. Yes, like having a good night's sleep is important. You will feel so much better and so much more productive. And there are so many more studies about how it affects our brain productivity. We might think that we're still like, oh, like there was a point in my undergrad when I was sleeping like 4 hours, and I was like, oh no, I can sleep with 4 hours. I'm like a Da Vinci, wherever. This is not true. You think you're productive. You think that you still have a good ideas and you can function, but you'll be much more productive. You can get much more creative if you have enough sleep, even if it's like 7 hours. And yes, so this I think this is a kind of a fallacy. This is a trap we're getting. It's sort of sometimes our brain does not recognize when it's not working at its full capacity, and so we think so we can cheat ourselves, but this is not how it's supposed to be. So
Okay, so thank you again, Zhanna, for being here with us and sharing your experience. We wish you to continue reaching great heights in your career life and in your general life. And I'd also like to thank all the participants of today's event. So thank you guys, everybody. Good luck, stay safe, and we'll see you in the next episode of PSIR Talks.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys, for inviting me. And yeah, thank you so much for attending this talks on Saturday evening. I know you're my heroes. And yeah, please feel free to reach out to me. You probably can find my email or like on Instagram, wherever. With your question, I'll be always happy to chat, or if I can give any advice or anything I can help with, I'll be happy to. Okay.
Thank you. Bye.